Peace is an understanding. Peace, it's a decision. Peace, it's a choice. Or is it? Ladies and gentlemen, today we gather here from all over the globe to solve an issue, discuss the most, yet actioned upon the least. Its name, we call it peace. To some, it is more precious than diamonds, silver, and gold, while to others, it is the cost to make diamonds, silver, and gold. Some are willing to give lives to maintain it, while others are willing to take lives to destroy it. But I ask you this, what is peace? See, I went looking for an answer and I found a dictionary and it labeled it as freedom from disturbance, tranquility. But is the lonely man away from all the disturbances of the world at peace? We are quick to label calm as peace, but we forget it is the calm before a war where most soldiers fall. It is the calm after a breakup where most hearts are broken. I can't tell you what peace is, but I can tell you what it is not. It is not being blinded by ignorance, nor is it being dismissed in love. You need not love thy neighbor to be at peace with him, neither must you ignore your differences. But what you must do is make a choice. Make a choice to celebrate where we are different, and make a choice to acknowledge where we are similar. In today's day and age, we have mechanized the world between zeros and ones, forgetting the infinite decimals which come in between, and the infinite choices they represent.
These infinite choices lie on us, not just as specific individuals, but also as a common society. Society is made by we, humans, that as social creatures are not conceivable without a community. I believe conflicts are the reason we meet here annually. It is important to realize that for the concept of peace to exist, dispute came before. War, death, and destruction. That for every person inspired and motivated to prosper, there has been thousands in poverty, misery, and desperation. That for that one person to acknowledge that he or she has a choice to serve something new, others had to suffer. That for that person to acknowledge that he or she has a choice to put new foundation to tomorrow's society, that has a choice and even a duty to do so, others had to suffer. Being aware of how and what conflict is the first goal of peace. However, I'm not naive enough to think that issues such as poverty or war are a natural part of life, and that once we deal with them, they won't come back to us. But I would also like to highlight that whether these issues are different for all of us, you may be thinking, I do believe that we can find universal values that can act like a glue in a global society. Values that let us understand and accept the reasons that we make up the conflict. Being this the first step to a stairway to peace. For instance, accepting that we all have common needs and desires that make us equal, and that if we start taking into consideration not just our own demands and wishes, but others, we can make it to the second step of that stairway. Yet only by empathizing and understanding the great connection between peace in ourselves and how we reflect that to our community, we can understand why this conference was born. We can understand why is this an attempt to raise a voice in everyone's heads today. And we can understand that because of our purpose. Two students, two individuals of a global society, each joined together to overcome the differences and embrace peace in themselves, so that they could start then, and only then, by accepting the rest. I guess the choice now is, are you willing to accept the conflict?
Because we are living in one of the greatest tipping points of history. Citizens are looked at as consumers first and people last. Luxury goods have more regulations than prisons do. Global communication has made leaps, yet people have less information than they used to. Our human rights are the best explanation of the system which infects our thinking. They range from the right to life to right to trade, from the right to work to freedom to participate in the political process, but in over 30 particles, not once did we mention the right to peace. We have made peace sound like a luxury, war sound like necessity, and it is time we change that. And all that change stems from a matter of choice. The choice to say no to neoliberal democracies producing consumers instead of people, malls instead of communities. The choice to use the rising nationalism as a way to acknowledge differences and celebrate them rather than use them as a means to segregate. The choice to press the cold metal trigger, provoking the bullet, to race through the silver barrel and shoot the grotesque face of oppression and segregation right in the forehead. Aggressive it sounds, but aggressive we must be. Wise we must be. Ezra Taft once said, "You are free to make whatever choice you want, but you're not free from the consequence of it." My name is Siddhant Sharma, and I, much like everybody in this room, is speaking from privilege today. The privilege of choice. We have the choice to be able to walk out on the streets without the fear of getting shot. The choice to stay in without worrying where the food is going to come from. But it is not the privilege of choice which defines us, but what we do with that privilege. There is a maze in front of you today, a maze with a crooked path, one that needs straightening, and each choice that we make today is going to shape that maze. And based on that, the theme of this year's conference will be a matter of choice. Through examining the consequences of choices and how one's mindset affects and shapes those very choices, we aim to explore the degree of freedom we have when making our decision towards peace and a better tomorrow. The conference reflects on whether the choices we make are a culmination of our rational thinking or our emotional drive, and further explore if our decisions are a reflection of us or a reflection of our society.
Looking back to the roots of we as a conference, I'd like to imagine what could have been going through the weak moments for those minds of the founders of IPC, a Palestinian student and an Israeli one. It might be betraying the people that have fought for the cause of my nation. My family principle, perhaps. Is all of this even worth it? I bet they felt the frustration in some moments, the lump in their throat, the anxiety, the fear. Fear is the greatest paralyzer to one of the most extraordinary human abilities: to shake the world, to create. But we fear to fall. We fear to not please everybody. Fear to be judged. We fear the consequences of our actions as responsibilities. We fear to die as we fear to live. Now, I could not be gladder that Ido David and Mohamed Ashlada, the founders of IPC, overcame that fear. That they chose to consider, to accept, to understand, because thanks to that act of courage, we have received the chance of standing here right now to share these 3 magical days with you. I am Arturo Cuesta, another student from this school, one between many. But I've had the choice of joining this event, participating and adding value to it, because it's something, as I believe in, a UWC movement, as thousands of us do around it. Probably our ideas, comments, or even memories could vanish with the pass of the time after this conference. But what will not go is each one's attitude to get the most out of it, out of this chance, a chance to experience learning linked to feeling and empathy. The best, as hardly we could experience this in a class, delivered by any teacher, because this is delivered by our peers to our peers. This year, we will explore themes from identity and bullying to democracy and war. We think that this conference, being a student-led, as rest in our community, is important to remind us truly that we would like you to understand this conference as something flexible and not fixed. We highly encourage you not to simply take what is given to you, but to reflect to our community how you want it to be like. I guess your choice now is, are you willing to take the chance?
And with that, we welcome you to the International Peace Conference of 2018, A Matter of Choice.
Thank you. To officially begin with the conference, we're having our first speaker, our head of secondary, Tom Odom. Big applause for him, please. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that, especially the big. That was nice, the modifier. And I very much want to welcome everybody to this year's International Peace Conference. In the audience, I see parents, I see guests, I see students, I see alums, so it's fantastic to have you back. I think I had a Melly sighting. I think your attendance is better as a DP3 than a DP2, as far as I could tell. But in all seriousness, as I thought about this evening, I remembered that I was actually at that first International Peace Conference, and got me thinking about the whole thing, a matter of choice, because I was here to interview for my role here. And so I remember being not excited at all by the weather, but really excited by the atmosphere and the energy and the optimism and this idea of something new in the UWC movement. And you really felt that coming into being that evening. And that moment for me, I think, started in the classical frame of what I would say is a choice, you know, like get the job, don't get the job, yes, no, good, bad, right, wrong, win, lose. And I think sometimes we look at choice that way, a very binary thing that in some ways is limited, reductionist if you're in the TOK frame. And I think that the most important thing about that is that it's ultimately maybe not satisfying. You can never really win enough, even though you think you might be able to. And so as I think about our school, our movement, these conferences, I think they do aspire to a more holistic space where the whole is more than the sum of the parts. And so that the choices that we make take place inside that larger, more complicated context. And it doesn't mean that they don't matter, but I think that maybe sometimes we focus on the wrong aspect. You know, we focus on that binary result and maybe not the holistic process or system. And so I think an event like this can help us move to that other place, you know, to not simplify, to accept the complication. And I think the two previous speakers were getting at that, so that we could aspire to that more powerful space. Not an easy space, but I think a space that we have to continue to believe in. And for me, you know, music sometimes takes you there, and was fortunate this Monday to be able to go to a concert with Filippo, my daughter Hannah, my wife Rebecca. We went to see Iron and Wine, which is a great U.S. band in Brussels. And they've got this amazing new record. You should check it out if you're not listening to them already. One of the songs is Call It Dreaming, which I think the conference is that. And there's this lyric that kept running around in my head that I think gets at this, says it better than I am right now, where he sings about where we keep the light we're given, we can lose and call it living. And I think that's the real choice. It's really just to be here now, to trust your gifts, to act with integrity, to give more than you take, and to let that light shine, and to be willing to take that into whatever choices are facing you. Okay, because I think if you do that, then that's what unleashes that next level, that aspirational piece. And sometimes I think we shut that down, and that's maybe the most important thing to open up. So I want to, on behalf of the school, I want to thank our organizing team. Obviously they put a lot of time and energy into this evening, into these next couple of days. And also Heal, the faculty sponsor. And there's a lot of light in the room. And I look forward to sharing that and to sharing a great 2 or 3 days with you. So thanks for being part of it. And I think now we're going to move into some performances, some student performances. So let's give a big round of applause for these guys.
Hey guys! Thanks for being here! Okay, so we're gonna open up with our first performance. It's an original spoken word by Uresa. Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Uresa Ahmeti, and for those who don't know, I'm 17 years old in my second year here. Luckily, if I graduate this May. I come from Kosovo, which is a tiny, tiny country in the Balkans, Europe. And for today, I have prepared an original piece called A Matter of Choice. When the IPC staff members first approached me to ask me to perform something, whether I wanted or not, obviously, I made the choice directly yes. But then I reflected and I was thinking whether we have choices sometimes, whether we have the privilege of choices, and then we have that, what should we do with that? And through this spoken word, you will see my whole thinking process. For those who do TOK essays will probably understand how I'm writing about how I think I would write. And I hope you enjoy, so please just pay attention to every piece of word because it will all make sense in the end, and if you don't listen, it's not gonna make sense. A matter of life and death, life and threat, life and debt, life and sweat, life and mindset, life and Phuket. Well, I could keep trying to make words that rhyme like this, or I could say fancy big words, cheap words, or even better, I could just give a philosophy crash course. You know, we could talk about a matter in motion, discuss libertarian free will, or talk about the principle of alternate possibilities, the materialistic view, or if you really want to go to a high new level, I could easily start, But if you really want to go to the whole new level, I could easily start quoting 18th century Baron d'Holbach. But if you really want to hit that A-game station, I should just dive into event causation and agent causation. But raise your hand if philosophy is what you're here for today. Yeah, that's what I thought too. So now we can go back to the matter of something. 5 years ago, insomnia took my nights, and I became its baby, who was crawling in its invisible arms, which made nights into days, made the daylight my nightmare, and turned the moonlight my sunlight. Sunlight this, which kept the photosynthesis going on the non-existent chloroplast of my body's ecosystem. And surprise, humans don't always care about the ecosystem. While Chernobyl happened in one place and in other places happened Dust Bowl, Bhopal, sea levels rising, a shrinking of RLC, endemic species becoming endangered and then extinct, exceeding temperatures, drought coming, glaciers going, and my point is clear. We don't always care about the ecosystem, and I was no exception either. While the photosynthesis was going on with that whole chloroplast thing in my body, I stopped the process. Soon enough, my skin was a fragmented vegetation cover. It is just the same like cutting trees. The plants were still there, but you could see where it was cut. And then somehow I happened to know two people with who I shared one house. And while one of them was reading Khaled Hosseini's Kite Runner lines, I flipped the pages for him, pages which were filled with the drool of his mouth. He'd been paralyzed for only 3 decades, and the other man, his brother, was paralyzed for only 4 decades. And now, as I make these steps with my fragmented ecosystem, waiting to be 18, I think how it is exactly this time of the year and this age when those 2 men started experiencing body failure. When their well-functioning nerves had a supply shock, there was a shortage, there were negative externalities, some of those which couldn't be fixed nor by interventionist, market-based, fiscal, or monetary or whatever policies. It was left just an uncured disease called paralysis. And I was born. And among the first sounds I heard were those 2 men's screams. But then I considered them to be mourning vocals. And then I became even more creative, and I was thinking how I was living in an action movie. But then with time I got tired of that action and all that thrill, so I wanted the end of the movie. You know, the happy one, when we could cry of happiness, when those voices would stop, but somehow it ended up being the longest movie I've ever watched, and those voices haven't stopped yet. So now, each time I think of those voices and I hear them in my head, all I have in my head is Hallway to Hell. And I know that the productivity of those men's ecosystems wasn't the highest you can find in rainforest, but they still kept existing. They kept coping with the environment. They're alive, and they are my uncles. And now, as confused as you might be, and as much as you genuinely might not care for one's personal story, you have to deal with me for just a little longer. Because it is the matter of a personal story I wanted to lead you to. The personal is political, and it's the political which brings the bad and the good and leaves us at the thrilling puzzle and labyrinth of choices. So now I am here today so we can together remember how painfully difficult it is to choose right and act correctly on those choices to give an end to the silenced voices, both the figurative and the literal ones. I need to rebring in this conversation the importance of choices because I keep going back to the planet where bones were to support muscles rather than something to get broken. I keep going back to the planet where hearts were to give life rather than choose to take other lives away. I keep going back to the planet where rivers cried crystal clear water rather than sewage. To the planet where Harlem was not today's Harlem. To the planet where her clitoris was left where it was supposed to be. To the planet where all indigenous peoples didn't have to leave their healing trees, pouring waters, unconventional life, and lack of technology. Are you bored already? Well, I keep going back to the planet where you wouldn't be bored already just because I'm not keeping up with the Kardashian. I mean, pardon me, but you and I should probably start keeping up with the real drama here. And no, Kim Kardashian's sex tape is not what I mean. So I need to rebring in this conversation the importance of choices and the importance of the personal. Because don't you dare say to me that there's nothing you can do. One woman brought the suffragettes together. One man brought the civil rights movement together. One person initiated green politics. That was the one time we managed to go to the moon for the first time. And that was the first time we had one female president. But there was also one man from Germany who ended 6 million lives. There was one man from the East who let his people die of hunger. And there is one orange man from the West, and there is one button, and we have one life, and we have one world, and only one choice. Choice which could either bring a story that goes like, there was one orange man from the West who did not push that one button, saved our one life, and saved the one world that we have by making one single right choice. Or we could have a story that could go like, we have an orange man from the West who pushed that one button, ended the one life that people had, and started the destruction of the one world we have by making one single wrong choice. And it was a matter of choice for me to whether share my story with you in here or shut my mouth, but I chose to react and speak up. Because I want to stop going back to the imaginary planet I before talked to you about, and I want to create it. Acknowledgement of problems comes first. Arrangement towards fixing those problems comes second. And acceleration of change by us taking initiative comes last. So here today I stand with the most beautiful cliched message. It's time to choose to save the world. Saving the world mission for me started by stopping my own ecosystem destructions and turning it into a blooming willow tree. And then continued by thinking globally and acting locally. For you, the Saving the World mission could start by just thinking about what I just said and realize that indeed there is a butterfly effect. Choices is not equals to easy, but my whole family's women were denied an education, and it would keep being that way if my mom hadn't taken the choice to give herself the opportunity to choose for the first time and graduate in her 40s. It wasn't easy for her. It wasn't easy for her, but she made a hard choice to get a paper that reads diploma and then save the next generation, me, who now is able to get a paper that reads diploma here in a mixture pot of differences with less obstacles. So now, in this moment, all I have, which is left, is how beautiful is the butterfly effect. Not only we choose for ourselves, but with right choices for ourselves, we could give other people the choices that they never had. So right now, here I stand and choose to throw away all the dirt that I've been through and peacefully, barefoot, walk towards better choices for myself, my people, my habitat, and all of you. It's recyclable paper, people.
Uresa, thank you so much for that amazing spoken word. I think that deserves another round of applause, actually. Okay, next up we have a dance by Yanera.
Stay awake for days if that's what you want. Be your number one. I can fake a smile. I can force a laugh. I can dance and play the part if that's what you ask. Give you all I am. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. But I'm only human, and I bleed when I fall down. I'm only human, and I crash and I break down. Your words in my head, knives in my heart. You build me up and then I fall apart, 'cause I'm only human. I can turn it on. Be a good machine. I can hold the weight of worlds clouds if that's what you need. Be your everything. I can do it. I can do it. I'll get through it. But I'm only human. And I bleed when I fall down. I'm only human. And I crash and I break down. Words in my head, knives in my heart. You build me up and I fall apart. 'Cause I'm only I'm only human. I'm only human. Just a little human. I can take so much till I've had enough. 'Cause I'm only human. And I bleed when I fall down. I'm only human. And I crash and I break down. Words in my head, knives in my heart. You build me up and then I fall apart. 'Cause I'm only human.
All right, guys. Thank you very much, Yanera, again. Okay, so for our next performance, we actually have a bit of a game. We'll let the performer actually explain it to you a little bit. So can you help me welcome Luce, please?
All right, hi guys. To start, there will be kind of a Kahoot. It's not a quiz. It's just a choice. So there's going to be 4 songs that you all can choose from. The one that is the majority, I will play. I will also be playing blindfolded. can't read the bottom one. The bottom one is called Home, it's by Dotan. The other one is called This Is Me from The Greatest Showman.
Nu bij Tele 2.
All right, we're gonna move on. Before we move on to our last performance, just one quick announcement. If you guys go onto your Snapchat, you will see that we have created a geo filter. Yep. So feel free to try that out. And this last performance will give you the opportunity to loosen up a bit, play with your Snapchat. So we have SNA setting up. So.
Tonight we are SNA and we want to wish you
Can we just make sure that
once happy birthday. One, two, three, take it and come with me because you look so fine that I really want to make you mine. You look so fine that I really want to make you mine. One, five, six, come on and get your kicks now. Don't need that money with the face like do ya? Big black long brown hair, she's so sweet. Get back here. I say, do you want to be my girl? One, two, three, take it and come with me because you look so fine that I really want to make you mine. You look so fine that I really want to make you mine. One, five, six, come on and get your kicks now. Don't need that money when you look that to you. Big black long brown hair, she's so sweet. Get back there.
Get away!
Wonderful performances, right? Another round of applause, guys. Our next speaker, I'm proud to say, is a Sudanese political artist. His works have gone viral all over the internet, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and he talks about controversial issues such as uprisings, corruption, terrorism, and yeah, I can't say much more. Just introduce him, Khalid Al-Bey.
Yeah. Tall people, man. I'm so impressed right now. This is, I have a really good friend. I was teaching in a university in America called Colby last year, and a friend of mine was a graduate of UWC from Costa Rica. And I love the guy. He's one of my really good friends. And yeah, like I see you in him, you know. I'm so impressed. I'm very, very impressed. The poetry was amazing. The dancing was amazing. The band rocks, man. You guys are cool. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm a political cartoonist. I'm from Sudan. I'm a social media based political cartoonist, and that's because I didn't have the choice to go through social media because of censorship and so on. I started a Facebook page after I got kicked out of an editor's office. And I thought about it, like how many people are going to read this newspaper anyway? So I started a Facebook page, and I just started, back when Facebook was cool. It was super cool back then. So yeah, I started a Facebook page. I started putting my work in it. I only had like my friends and family, and they were sharing my stuff and so on. And on the internet, I met a lot of people. I met a lot of musicians, writers, artists, poets, and we collaborated because they all got kicked out of that editor's office. Because we all went through the people that reject us, and they didn't understand what we're talking about. There's a huge generational gap, especially in the Arab world and North Africa, between the people who are in power and the people who wanted to make a change. And all of these things led later on to what became known as the Arab Spring. So my work went from being online and just, you know, things that people look at, to posters, stencils, and huge banners that were used during the revolutions. And that was huge for me because, you know, I was always behind the screen, and now I'm actually in the streets. So I love the title of the conference because, you know, growing up Black, growing up African, growing up Muslim, you really have very restricted choices in life. So, and that's part of who I became as well, and that's part of what we were fighting as well. And working on the internet, because it was the only choice that we had, we come from a generation that's between a generation that grew up with 2 newspapers and a TV channel and, let's say, three radio channels, right? And this is it. That's the only choices you have to know the news, to know what's going on in the world. And we witnessed the beginning of the internet and having choices. And that really what made us break these borders and break the rules and break out of our houses, and for these revolutions to happen that continue to happen until today. So we were introduced to so many choices all of a sudden. And a lot of people say that when you have no choice and you have so many choices, it kind of leads to the same thing. Most people become apolitical because they don't know what's real or not. What is the truth and what is not the truth? And for me, being an artist from the internet, in this day and age, this age of fake news and alternative facts, I always face this choice. Should I talk about this or should I not talk about this? Is this real? Is this not real? How is this going to affect what I'm trying to do? And the same people that we were fighting against on these 2 newspapers and 3 radio channels are now the ones that are on the internet. Now they own most of the internet because they found out the power of having choices. So now we face the same thing again. It's the same war again. What are we going to do? How are we going to make these choices? How are we going to make sure that our news is real and it's not what they want us to say? And for me, I make a cartoon every day. I've been doing a cartoon every day for the last 8 years, right? So I found myself running in this hamster wheel as well. Am I part of the solution or am I part of the problem? Am I just saying, repeating, being a parrot to whatever is the trending hashtag today? Is this what I'm supposed to do? Or am I supposed to question that? Am I supposed to talk about things that people don't know about? And if I talk about things that people don't know about because it's not trending, would people care? If people don't care, they wouldn't like my things. If they don't like my things, I don't get followers. If I don't get followers, you wouldn't even know I'm here. So this is the life of social media and following and followers and all of these things. And for us, I think our generation broke that circle that they wanted us to run in. But now, this is your time to break the new circle that they got us running in. Because there's news and there's entertainment. And a lot of people confuse the two. There's real news, hard-hitting things that happen every day, affect millions of people, and then there's what they shorten the news to be. Because we went from blogging, people just write about their lives and their cats, and then Facebook, family pictures, and people write about what they want to do, and then it was Twitter. You have 140 characters to tell me what you want to say, and then it was Instagram. Nobody wants to hear what you want to say. People just want to see pictures of food. And then it was Snapchat, and that totally took away the social out of social media, right? So now there's no social. Now there is just me and you, right? You don't know what other people are saying to your snaps or responding to your snaps, right? So this thing that made these revolutions, the thing that made people move and consider was having a conversation. Having things like this, having your school, people from everywhere, every color, every shade talking to each other. This is what the internet did, and this is what they're trying to prevent now. I don't have a nice closing to this, but all I want to say is that when I came here, and when I saw these performances, and when I heard about the school, this is exactly what the solution should be. Just conversation, people knowing each other, knowing about other people's countries, breaking these borders, the borders that we couldn't break because of the restrictions that we have on us, whether it was traveling, or whether it's racism, or whether it's censorship. So you, as the generation of the future, should know what to do and try to look for solutions. I'm not going to talk more because I'm so impressed with all of you, and I would love if you have any questions. I would love to answer them. I have some of my work out there. Thanks, Abdurrahman. Please look at the work. Follow me. I'm on Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook and everything that comes up, I'm there. So if you have any questions, I'm here. And I'm here hopefully for half the day tomorrow. So thank you very much for having me. And you guys give me hope, seriously. Thank you very much. don't know if we take questions now or later.
Thank you for being here. First off, we'd like to give you a token of our gratitude.
Hey.
Just a bag with so we'll open it up for questions. We have a mic, so. If anyone has questions,
Hello, I'm Stefano from Italy, and I wanted to ask you one simple thing, because I know you do cartoons. So why did you chose why did you chose to share your political view, your political messages through cartoons?
This is not it's not political messages. It's political questions. This is just me asking questions and asking for what do you think. This is what I think. What do you think? Right. So this is my way of asking questions. I chose cartoons because it's approachable. If I say I'm a cartoonist, an 8-year-old smiles and a professor smiles, right? And this is a good way of starting a conversation. I could say I'm an artist, I'm a contemporary artist, or I could say whatever I want. But growing up again with all these restrictions, even though I studied art, it was very hard for me to call myself an artist. Because when you say I'm an artist, where I come from, most people think of you as somebody that's useless to society, somebody that's very selfish, that doesn't live in this world. And the art world was a big part of that as well, because now they say the art world. Like artists are not supposed to be from this world, working for this, So it's for me, this is, when I say I'm a cartoonist, I'm a political cartoonist. And growing up, this is the only thing that the people read in newspapers, because in the first page, it's always the great leader did this and that, everybody's happy, he's amazing, we're all good. And you turn to the last page and you see the cartoon, even though it has to say something like that, but it's sarcastic. And everybody knows it's a joke, because the whole thing is a joke, right? So this is why I wanted to become a cartoonist. And I respect cartoonists because we're artists, but at the same time we're journalists, right? So, and we work for society. We work for, it's social. It's very social. It's about what's happening. Yeah.
Well, hello.
Hi.
My name's Valeria.
Great singing. Thank you.
I'm from Mexico, and first of all, I wanted to thank you for being here.
Thank you.
My question is quite personal, but for example, in Mexico, being a journalist is quite a very dangerous thing to be. And given the controversial nature of your pieces and how widespread media is, are you ever afraid of what the effect might be in your audience? And if so, how do you overcome that?
Overcome being afraid?
Yeah.
You don't. You just keep going. I'm doing an artist residency now in Copenhagen, and it's for artists that are threatened or working under restricted freedom of press or whatever, And I met a lot of very brave artists and journalists through that program. And I'm very happy to be, amongst them, really, because I really learned a lot. And I was arrested in Egypt once, in Egypt's airport. It was one of the most funniest things that ever happened to me. Yeah, and they picked me out of the line, and they took me to this room, and the jail wasn't funny, but the part in the conversation that I had with the security guy, we called him Amin in Arabic. So he kept repeating the same questions for 4 hours. It's the same questions, and one of the questions was, are you gonna draw? And this guy has a gun, and he has like 5, 6 policemen just outside the room, and they have the country, really, you know? But he's asking me if I'm gonna draw. He's worried about me drawing. I was so proud of myself. So proud of myself, you know? So yeah, you know, it's not the guns, you know? It's when you know that you're doing something right. You know, this is what I'm here to do. You feel like you're a singer. You feel like I'm gonna be a singer. This is it. Just go for it. Like, it's never gonna be, yeah, I'm a singer. I'm gonna be okay. No, you're always thinking about how am I gonna make better? How am I gonna be a better singer? How am I gonna be a better whatever? You know, whatever you want to do. It's just about finding that. When you find that, nothing scares you.
Yes.
Sorry. I can't see, so.
Hi, here. Here.
Hey, hi. Okay, that's
Hi,
good.
I'm Elena from Curacao, and I want to ask, as a cartoonist and a journalist who's supposed to bring forward the truth, how do you decide what is truthful information?
Yeah, that's why I came to ask you today. You know, I mean, for me, it's a lot of research, and I read a lot. It's easy to do a joke. Very easy. It's very easy to laugh at somebody. But that's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to know what we're talking about. So it's not about the joke. And sadly, not most, but a lot of cartoonists think that this is what cartooning is. And even people, you know, when I say I'm a cartoonist, people just like, you know, tell us a joke, you know, like tap dance or something. Huh? But you really read a lot. And the good thing about social media is, and especially Twitter, was, you know, the term citizen journalism came out, you know, and everybody was reporting, everybody was talking, everybody was saying their opinion. And now even that is a bit, you know, you have to do your research. So you can't just talk about the headlines, because just like I said, every news now is Trump tweeted something, and everybody laughs, and that's it. But nobody knows the implications of that tomorrow, because tomorrow Trump said that. So we need to laugh about this today. We can't talk about tomorrow, because tomorrow, like yesterday, because yesterday is gone, right? So that search of deepness, long, you know, format analysis of what happened, that doesn't happen anymore, you know. And this is what we're missing. People are all about now, what happened now, right? So I went through the experience of this viral culture. Yeah. So I do a cartoon. First I did a cartoon about Omran Dingish, who's the kid that was found on the beach in Turkey, the Syrian kid. And I did a cartoon about that, and the cartoon was about, it's called Humanity Needs to Find the Cure for Visas, right? And the cartoon went viral, celebrities are retweeting it, everybody, I was on CNN talking about it, you know. And exactly a year later was the video of the child the Syrian kid in the ambulance. Do you remember that video? He's sitting in the ambulance and he's bloodied and stuff. So everybody was doing around that. Everybody was talking about that video, and you know, people are talking about it, and it's everywhere, and it went viral. So I did a cartoon, and it was basically about connecting Omran to this other child in the ambulance, and saying, these are the choices for Syrian children. If you stay, this is what happens to you. You're in this ambulance and you're bloodied, and if you leave, you end up, right? So, but what I was trying to say is that, not because you saw only that picture of the kid drowned, and the other child in the ambulance, that means these are the only incidents. There's exactly 1 year between these two incidents, and a lot of things happened in that year. So it's not this only, and it's not that only. And sadly, this what the internet does to you. Is now, what's trending now, what's happening now. Something happened an hour ago. That's old news. We're going now. So people are just busy. People are just running, and of course, it adds to it. Like now, there's algorithms in social media that basically makes you like what you like. So if you like the Kardashians, you're just gonna get the Kardashians. That's it. If you like Trump, you're only gonna get news about Trump. If you like Hillary, you're only gonna get news about Hillary, right? So that adds to the whole blindfolding. Like you're just following one line, and this is what I was talking about how do we solve that issue, right? And this is how Trump came to power at the end of the day, So it's that. It's like you need to connect the dots and do things. Did I answer your question? Yeah. 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 Sometimes I just get. Convince us. That art is useful, you mean? How can I convince you that art is useful? Is that what you're saying? Okay. Eiffel Tower. Do you know the Eiffel Tower? برج ايفل في باريس. All right, so they didn't need to build that, did they? They didn't need to build it, but when they built it, people remembered it until today. This became, when you say Paris, the first thing that comes to your mind is the Louvre, art, Eiffel Tower, right? Masr, the pyramids, yeah, Egypt. So art is not about, it's gonna change things now, it's about things that will change things later. Later on, these will mean things. So now when you study art, when you know how to perform, when you know how to sing, when you know how to write poetry, when you do painting or whatever it is that you're doing, films, documentaries, whatever, these things will affect generations to come. Generations to come. And most of the countries that the art was not a part of its history now are struggling to find out who they are, because the art documents who you are, So when you think about here, the Netherlands, Rembrandt, and everybody has that. So if you don't have something that connects you to the rest of the world, even though you didn't need to do that, you don't need to do that because it's a waste of money. It's a tall building made out of steel. It doesn't mean anything, but it will always be remembered, and it will make a character out of this, So it's art is not about now. Art, you will find out what's the use of art in generations. I don't know. Can she ask another one? Yeah. You mean how is my cartoon changing anything, or how does Eiffel Tower change anything? Sorry? How does my cartoon change anything? It doesn't. I wish it did. It doesn't. But it's about reflecting what's happening. It's about saying that it's not about this one child, it's about what's happening. So it's about knowing. It's about getting you interested in knowing. It will never change anything. But it's about you knowing and understanding and caring. And that's all that it is now. But later on, it will be used to tell that story. That these were the only choices for Syrian children for 8 years because they wanted their freedom. That's it. So later on, that will become history. Yeah? Yeah? The poet? Yeah? Yeah.
But at the same time, now I hear you say that your work doesn't really change anything, unfortunately. But before you mentioned how you want to impact people, and then you mentioned how you want to impact them long term. But the thing is that you said also that you want to improve yourself.
Yeah.
And since your impact can be only measured in the long run, how do you as an artist, because I assume to be an artist in the future, maybe not drawing.
You're an artist now.
How can I, at least I want advice from you, how can I as an artist measure the impact and the effectiveness of my work right now? Because for the future I cannot predict fully. And in addition to that, do you really think that artists cannot change anything, as you just said now?
If you want to measure your work, I suggest you publish it. Publish your work. Use the internet. Do YouTube videos. Write it. Do blogs. Post it. Whatever. Like just make as many people as possible watch it, and then you will get a lot of feedback. And in this feedback, you will know what you're doing and what you're supposed to do, and it all at the end of the day, it's your choice of what you want to do next. What was the other one? Sorry, if I think I'm gonna change the. Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really change anything, but you think that art is nothing, can change nothing, but it's just there to reflect.
No, I think art is part of changing something. It's not art that will change something. Artists will do their part. Historians will do their part. Right? Professors will do their part. Academics will do their part. Everybody will do their part. Protesters in the street will do their part. So it's not one person or one occupation that will change things. It's a mindset. We all need to get in the same frequency that we need to change things. And then everybody does what they want or what they can do, right? And this is how things happen. Like I remember during the first days of the protests, right? And that's in 2011. And even today, like 3 days ago, in Sudan, my country, there was protests going on for the last 3 days. The first people that they rounded up were journalists and artists. First people. So, because they're the people that have an effect, you know? And one of the first things that happened in revolution, like in the Arab Spring Revolution, for example, the first thing that happened was that street art became everywhere. There was no such thing as street art, right? It was called vandalism, graffiti, whatever. But then after the revolution, it became street art. Because it's not that artists were, they wanted to draw on walls before. No, it was that to say that we broke the fear. We can draw pictures of Mubarak and Gaddafi and whatever on the wall, right? So this is what it meant, that we broke that fear. So art is a part of that, right?
Can I ask mine first? My name is Arabi. I'm from Syria. It's really great to have you here. My question is simple. How were you faced by your family or like your society, your friends, when you decided or when you started to becoming cartoonist, when you started like drawing and
when I started drawing or when my work started circulating?
When you started taking that as a job, as something you do.
It's not my job. I don't get paid for it. It's not my job. I don't work as a cartoonist.
Oh.
No, but like if you mean how, yeah. When I started drawing and I started posting my work and all of that, of course, everybody said, yeah, it's nice, you know. And then I started doing it every day, and people started noticing it more. And when I started doing questioning more, like talking about authority and talking about a lot of things, religion, and talking about all these things, you know, my wife was worried, my mom was worried, and you know, because of what's happening, right? That anything can happen. And during the revolution, one of the first things that happened was a cartoonist, Ali Farzad, a Syrian cartoonist. He's 68 years old. He drew a cartoon about Bashar, and he was kidnapped, and they broke his fingers. Right? This was one of the first things that happened in the revolution. So yeah, I was scared. I'm still scared every day, because when you post something, you really don't know what's going to happen, because there's no rules to protect you, and even rules don't matter, and you know, a lot of things. And that's why, you know, people are still working until today in changing a lot of these things. Yeah.
I'm Rama from Palestine. As you say that you think that your art doesn't change, so what is the purpose of it then? Like, what is the purpose of you drawing cartoons if you think that it doesn't change?
It's what I think is my part. It alone cannot change things, but it's my part. This is what I do, right? This is what I found that I can do best to be part of this change, so I do it. It doesn't matter. I don't get paid for it. All my work is free under Creative Commons license, which means it's free to share and to use and to remix, do whatever you want with it. I have my latest work that went viral. It's a work that I did for Colin Kaepernick. He's an African American football player that kneeled down during the national anthem, and that was a huge thing in America. How can you kneel down during the national anthem? And I before that, a year ago, I did a documentary for The Guardian, and it was about civil rights and human rights. So I did a study, because for us, coming from the Arab world, the civil rights movement worked, because after all, America had a black president. Yeah, so that means it worked. So for us, I wanted to go and study what happened and everything. So I studied kind of the way of the civil rights movement. So when this happened in 2016, that an African American sits down or kneels during the national anthem, and it becomes such a huge matter, and they don't even sign him the year after that. I drew a cartoon with him kneeling down, and his afro is the black fist from the 1968 Olympics, when two African American runners lifted their black fists during the ceremony. And that went viral. It went everywhere. Every celebrity you can think of was wearing this t-shirt. And it was on banners, and it was everywhere. Nobody knows my name. But I'm so happy that everybody's wearing this work, because it's a movement. It didn't change things, but it was part of it. Right? So it's not about now. It's definitely not about now. It's about what happens next. You know? That an artist from Sudan, from the Arab world, a Muslim, is collaborating or in this movement of civil rights movement that I have nothing to do with at all, but I do. Yeah?
Hi, my name is Martha. I'm Venezuelan in Spain.
Hello?
I want to thank you also for being here. Fantastic. But I have a couple of questions that kind of go hand in hand that we were already discussing. But it's more about the audience that you have. And I wanted to know if you draw for a specific audience, if you reach towards a specific audience. And as you were saying before, you need to be careful about what kind of impact your images would have for your career as well. So I wanted to ask, do you draw for a specific audience? And if so, what kind of reactions have you gotten? What kind of things have you triggered? Have they been aggressive? Have they been something that has changed your career completely in one turn with one small cartoon? How has that experience been?
It's every. I don't draw for a certain audience. I draw for the internet. I say I'm from the internet. I'm Sudanese. I was born in Romania. I grew up in Dubai and Doha, and now I live in Copenhagen. But all my life I was in the internet. This is where I am. This is where I grew up. This is where I read. This is where. So, I draw for that. I draw for the internet, for whatever is happening, the conversations that are happening there. And did comments change my life? No, really. I mean, sometimes you get really sweet, nice comments or messages saying that, I think your work is great and I would like to do the same thing, or I support you, or this is my niece's drawings, what do you think about them? And sometimes, I think you're an idiot and this is terrible and you're a sellout and all sort of things. But you just need to listen. You just need to listen carefully, because sometimes you just don't want to get lost in your own world. And, some people can be really mean, but some people can be really nice as well. So, what do you mean politically?
What I mean is, has there been anyone coming after you?
A lot. That's why I'm in Copenhagen.
We also need to see how this works, so we get to have a visual testament of his works.
Hello, I'm Vivi. I'm from Taiwan. I want to ask you about, because there are so many things that happen daily, and globally, there's definitely bigger countries and smaller countries, which most of the news from some of the bigger countries might be published more often compared to other smaller countries, which may not be, that seen on a lot of social media. How do you choose the topic for your artwork? Because you mentioned that you produce art every single day. How do you choose those topics?
Sadly, on the internet, I have to do what's trending, right? So I read, and whatever gets my interest, I try to do two things, right? I try to do something that will grab the attention of a larger audience, and then follow it with something that will not grab the attention of larger audience, but they will be still on that hashtag. So I use hashtags a lot, right? So if whatever is trending right now, I write that hashtag on my artwork and I do something about it, and then I do something about something that happened in I don't know, Sudan, or somewhere that's not really on the media, right? Or something that happened in Palestine, or something that happened in Morocco, something that's not always on the media, right? So I try to play around that, because it's unfortunately there's nothing we can do. This is the platform that we have, and you have to work around that. So it's just, I use a lot of hashtags, and I try to do something that's very pop, and then I'll do something that's or related to that. So Kim Kardashian took, I'm sorry, I'm mentioning her a lot, but she took there was this cover of a magazine and says, break the internet. And it was her standing with whatever, right? And I did that, but it was about the elections, right? So and I used the hashtag. So a lot of people saw it, So it's all about jumping into something and saying, yeah, hey, this is fun, but here, So it's just ruining the party, really. One more question?
I'm Faisal from Palestine. I wanted to ask you, how comfortable are you talking about certain political things in Sudan, given, first of all, your own safety, and how some people usually avoid talking about political issues in their country to not give a bad representation?
Yeah. Because there's not a lot of people that talk about Sudan internationally, so I try to do that as much as I can, and it's not good, definitely, for anybody's safety, but you got to do what you have to do. Sometimes be careful. I don't say that when I'm there. I travel in Isaiah say it, you know. So, but I take pictures, and I when I'm there, I try to do a lot of things. I trick my way into there. Don't video that. But I try as much as I can to do that, because this is what it's all about. I mean, don't get yourself in trouble. Don't risk your own safety. Don't risk your family's safety. But try to push the boundaries as much as you can, because there's nothing else to do. You have to do that, right? And when you push and other people push, then something will happen and conversation will start happening, right? And they don't like me anyways, so what the hell, you know? Thank you very much, guys. I'm very, very, very proud of you. And I'm here if you have any questions, anything. If you want some of these prints, you can take them. I can sign them for you, right? So don't fight. They're in line. We can print them. Don't worry. Okay. So thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much, Khalid Alban. For participants, it's very important if you would like to see some visual works of what Alban has done right here in the small gym, please.
I don't know. I don't really know what to ask.
Good. No, you're good. You're young. Nothing doing it. Just be safe. If you're at this age now and they're afraid. When I was your age, I was just partying.
I guess my question is, coming from the Middle East, there's a lot of oppression on free press, and you really can't say whatever you can. So, do you think that if you're trying to change something, there isn't worth drawing a line on what you publish, so that you can continue delivering your message?
Like self-censorship.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't call it self-censorship. I call it choosing. Because if I want to talk about something and I want this to be a conversation, I don't want to go to jail, and at the same time I want to talk about it. So this is why I think artists coming from more restricted freedom of press regions are more creative, because we think about ways around the issue to talk about it. So you can talk about whatever you want to talk about, but how do you talk about it? That's the question. But you always need to push the boundary. Like don't be safe all the time. Be safe sometimes, and then just push something, So it's all about that. But it's definitely hard. What are you gonna do? But this is what you have to do. There you go.
And my question is,
In the internet, it stays. It definitely stays. There's people that you don't know. I mean, through the comments, about how many people got shared and all of that. But sometimes that's, مش مقياس لأنه فجأة ممكن يكون it's not the topic anymore, so it doesn't happen, you know. But it's there. You do it, it's there, you know. So you just have to work with it. But it is, as I said, you know, you don't have like not every piece is Mona Lisa, you know. Like sometimes you just do things. Yeah.
That's one of the things that scares me about like being an artist in general, or like the role of art, because like it's like I don't know, like for me I think that's the mission of art, like to stay, to affect generations, as you said, for example, about the pyramids and stuff. But there's always the question like what are the methods, like how can you, like is it just coincidence that these art stay
It's the right time. It's the right time. Like for me, working about stuff in the internet, it's the right time. You have to be quick, you know. So you have to like this happened, you have to do something, you know. And sometimes it's a lot of pressure. And as I said, you find yourself just running in this hamster wheel. Like you don't know if you're part of the problem, part of the solution, you know. So it depends really what you want to do. I mean, not every artist is on the internet. A lot of artists do galleries and put up works and do installations and do public art, things that stay forever on the street with people, right? So there's a lot of things you can do. You don't have to be on the internet if you don't want to. You know, like that's not really important. You could go. There's several ways you can do it. I did this that way because that was my way. But there's a whole other way. You know, of galleries and museums and artist-run spaces and public art and guerrilla work, so you can just do graffiti and you can do street art and that stays, you know, it has more. If they paint over it, you paint it again. That's what it's all about. You know, they painted over Banksy, worth thousands of dollars, but you know, they paint again, and it was painted over by other artists because this was street art, you know, so.
I have a question.
Like,
they're coming down again. So the thing is, you said that you chose it this way. Like, was it your choice or was it like?
What chose what?
Like publishing art on the internet.
It wasn't my choice. I didn't have it because the newspapers don't take it because it looks different or it's not funny or you know, censorship. You know, so the only way for me to have a public space was that.
And like now, living in Copenhagen, do you think that's being different?
No, I mean, I live in Copenhagen now, but I'm going back home. So it's like I need to think about what if I go back home, this is always going to upset them. But I'm past that line, kind of, and I'm already in the blacklist, you know, so it doesn't matter. You know? So yeah, you just need to think about how do you want to see yourself in the future as an artist? What do you want to be written about you? What do you want people to see about your activism or your art or what you have to say? What do you have to say? That's one thing you have to figure out.
Because not every artist is political.
Not every artist is political, but kind of. What is politics? It's your opinion.
Yeah.
So your art is your opinion. So every art is political, right? So whether you don't call it political or not, but it is political. So it's just figure out what you want to do, who you are, what's your mission, what do you want to say, how do you want to say it, you know, and research. And there's a lot of art, out there.
Marcus is going to ask her the questions.
And there's a lot of Syrian artists, you know, if you want to introduce you to artists, doing incredible things. So,
I'm really interested in pursuing photojournalism, and I was wondering, like, what proliferation of social media, like activism related to the internet, do you still think there's a significant role in place that civil protest has, like, because so much activism is moving to the internet, moving to social media. Do you still think there's a significant role for civil protest that's actually like right in front of you, since the message can get especially in social media? And do you think that's going to be eroded at one point?
No, I mean it leads to that, you know. So like internet is a discussion because we don't. People prefer you to stand on a soapbox in a park and talk, and people will gather, and then from there people are like, let's go, like you know, like kill the queen or I don't know. So it's like that. So this is what happens in the internet. You talk, you start the conversation to rally, and then people go, right? You include it. You don't start that and leave. No, you're included. So it's steps. You know. So it's yes, art is in the internet now, and activism is in the internet. But this is how it starts. This is our soapbox. You know?
also a group of us, like 6 or 7 of us, are going to Copenhagen in 2 weeks for a break. And would it be possible to like visit for
Absolutely, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. You can come, I'm always in the library. So let me know when you're coming. Just text me on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. Let me know and I'll definitely.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank
No
you so
worries
much.
at all.
I wanted to ask you, when you first started, did you personally have any knowledge about, like, did you study art or anything like this, or did you have any figure that inspired you to do it, or was it just the circumstance?
When I was 14 or 15 or something, my father started buying two magazines. They're Egyptian. And one is called Sabah al-Khair, which means good morning. The other one is called Rosa Yusuf, which is the name of the founder. And they're political, cartoon-based magazines. Right? Like in the British ones, the American one is called New Yorker, right? And they have it in every country. So for me, I found this was a discovery of something that I loved, because it had art, it had comics. I love comics, you know. So it was about comics, but it was also about art, but it was about politics. And at that time, we had to leave Sudan because of the political situation of my father. So we left, and for me, politics was the reason that I didn't have a home. You know? So talking about politics in a way that's approachable, because if I want to talk to kids in my school about politics, it's like, whoa. You know? So this became like the joke is the best way to talk about something. And you know, in a school like this, if you start saying political jokes, you'll find out that it's all the same. It's all the same. It's just the names of the presidents change, or the names of, you know. So it's this really took, like, satire brings people together and like has this kind of you know, that we all laugh at the same people. You know, yes, they're oppressing us, but we're laughing at them.
About this, the thing is that in my country, I come from Greece, so like when our police messages, all of our presidents or political leaders or anything are constantly humiliated, and this is that everyone makes fun of them on TV shows, everything. And I feel like this has taken it to the extent that satire has become normalized in a sense. So like, how do you feel? It's like, I feel like the more we make satire about them, the less we make important the deal. We make a less of a deal about what they do. So we're like, yeah, it's like they're ridiculous, but we're still like
It's making fun of something, or talking about something in a funny manner. It doesn't mean respectful. It's criticism. There's different things. Like there's people that make fun of things just because they can make fun of something. They can. Bullying. So there's a difference between you trying to criticize people, and there's a difference between bullying. So you just need to figure out which team is what. But most respected cartoonists never were that.
So that same question, we looked at that show,
Yeah.
What's the question? And it's not even related exactly the way you're talking about right now.
Super Shy is going to be very first remember to what extent, I don't know. Like, there's, when you do satirical, like, cartoons, often the context in which it's created is very, very important, especially, like, to what extent this culture in which it was born is, like, able to accept it and take it in. So for Charlie Hebdo, what I was saying in class was that in France and like in French, and it was an accepted thing, because we knew what that was by the French people, because we knew that the cartoonists were generally leftists and we understood everything. It was especially when they were taken out of context, when they were shown on an international like audience, that it created so much like backlash.
What's the percentage of Muslims in France?
It's very high.
So Charlie Hebdo had one American reality book. He wrote a very nice book called Arabic Suicide. Three parts. Amazing. So if you have a neighbor is really and you're not, and you come out every day and you say a joke, a bad joke that he doesn't respect, his kids don't respect. Every day. Every day. One of his kids, one day, is going to slap you in the face.
Yeah. Okay, so
At some point.
So
right?
do you believe that you have to respect cultural sensitivity?
Absolutely, because it depends what you want to do. Do you want to build bridges or do you want to burn them? In a situation like France, where there was the civil unrest in Nice, in Paris, and the protests, the burning, and all of that, do you think that came? And then, that came from nothing? Charlie Hebdo came from that. It came from colonialism, it came from post-colonialism, it came from the separation of immigrants from the French. Even now, the idea of a Frenchman is not wearing a beret and having a Frenchman can be anything. Because these people were brought there by the French and they stayed there. So you have to consider that it's not acceptable by all Frenchmen. Right? So this is what you need to think about as a journalist and as an artist. What do I want to do with this project? Can you do it? Can I draw Prophet Muhammad? Go for it. Great. But what did you accomplish? This is the whole thing. Do you have the freedom to do it? Of course you have the freedom to do it. One, because it's your own choice. Second, because you're French. You were in Algeria for 300 years. You killed 1 million people, and now these people are brought back to France. You are discouraging them from being French. And you're making fun of them. So, what do you want to do? It's all about that. What do you want to do? I'm not telling you to build bridges. I'm telling you what you want to do.
Was that outcome in terms of the way it was received and the controversy? Was that popular in terms of the reception, the audience's reception? Were they at fault? Or was it more the author's production that was more at fault? So what was more at fault? The reception of it in terms of the limited understanding, or perhaps that cultural sensitivity that made people unable to be able to understand the purpose behind the production, because of the fact that the producers of the work weren't aware enough of the sensitivity and potential controversy. So the question we kept asking was, who was more at fault in the situation? Some students say the artists, Charlie Hebdo, other students say
nothing is local. Whether we like it or not, you can't say I did this for a French concept. You can't. If it's out there, it's not for French. It's out there. So you need to be smart about it as an artist and as a journalist. You need to be smart about it. So saying you're a leftist anarchist, okay, great, but what? So it's about nothing is local anymore. And the second thing is that where did all these protests worldwide happen? They all happen in countries that already had conflict. They already were royal. I was in a camp once, right? And I spoke to his, and I was talking to him, and he was very upset. I said I'm a cartoonist. I'm a cartoonist. And I was like, why are you angry? He's like, these guys took everything. They took everything. I was like, who are these guys? He's like, you're French. They took everything. We're the West. Right? They took everything. They took our land. They took our oil. They have presidents that are installed by them, and these countries still pay tax for France until today. Right? And now they took the only thing that we have. Whether you like it or not, the only thing that these people have is religion. That one thing, the only honest man. They don't have honest politicians, they don't have good football players, they don't have anything. The only thing that they have is religion. And now it's gone. And who took it? The same people that took the oil, the same people that jailed them. So for them, it's why you keep doing this to me? Because you have the power? Could you just leave some things alone? That's all it is. So it's in the ground. It's not as they drew a cartoon. It's not like that. Prophet Muhammad was illustrated towards history. Right? There's manuscripts, Muslim manuscripts, whether from Persia or from and it's illustrated. So it's not about the illustration, it's about who did it and why.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was really nice. That was exactly
challenging illustrations consistently. Now there's a huge not being illustrations.
region was one country, was Muslim land, was divided by colonial powers, and then after they left, they put down people that were interested, and they made the only people who were in charge were religious people, not educated, religious. So they have no idea. They haven't probably read these manuscripts. So we are surrounded by. So it's not that it's challenging. It's there. It's there. Why it's not there now is because of what happened. Because of 60 or 70 years of post-colonial madness. Really, those people that were imposed.
You did say that in that chapter that controversy that cartoon of the Turkey treatment of that was gone in regards to the arts and there wasn't enough awareness of how to receive the perceptions of such a the Muhammad cartoon is also a particular cartoon
about the Syrian,
yeah.
So
I guess what I'm saying to you is you would claim that they're lacking awareness, not in terms of to challenge that cultural sensitivity, but that was it's not intentional to challenge that cultural sensitivity.
Because, when you live in a war-torn country, when you get killed for reasons way less than drawing a profit or talking about religion, if you just criticize a president, you get like. So when you live in such safe surroundings, you go, you work with a bike, and you come back, and you're like, wherever I have to be. It's kind of like, it's very, what's the word? Looking down. So that's the it's not that you look at the negative. It is there.
To my audience in terms of the audience you're talking about, then it's sort of discounting how many other audiences are going to be and how it's going to receive.
And the historical background is here as well. As a Frenchman, talking about this is accepted by all French. So it's really very important.
There's a lot of sensitivity around you have to be incredibly ethical in how to use satire. You have to be very careful about satire.
Now you have to be careful because nothing is local. It really depends on what you want to do. Who are you as a person?
We were looking at it because we're doing it now in 1984. Some of the comments Smith said was that cartoons are such a short piece of work and it's received in sort of 5-10 seconds. George Orwell doesn't want to mess it up because he's got 300 pages to be able to develop that satire, right? And so the medium plays such a significant role in terms of being able to manage the different perceptions of as well. Cartoons is such a delicate one in terms of the perception of so you have to be careful. Not too scared to ask the questions during the actual speech. I'm saying you're too scared to ask the questions during the actual speech, so you had to come over.
That was
Thanks very much.
No, thank you guys. I'm so impressed with you. It's incredible.
Thank you so much.
Any more questions about satire? Taking him back to class on Monday. Thanks very much.
I'll see you at your stay.
Yeah, for a little bit.
Watch our level, yes. Why? Nothing is local. We shouldn't do anything. My audience. I don't know.
When is it like? Can something be perfect? Can be reached with that cartoon or that art? Anything. If it's too offensive, but it's so that
every class.
I try to, like, I don't want to say art is to disturb the company. Right? So it's, you have to disturb them with something. Right? Show you something that you don't like. Or, so you don't have to say it's smart. Don't be saying it's smart. Like, know how to talk about it. You know? And push the boundaries. Where are you from? Where? You don't want to make For me, I have people I ask about issues. If I want to do something with Sudan, I have issues that I ask about. If I want to do something globally about something, whatever, I ask them about this. You know, so I have people that I trust and who are knowledgeable in these fields that I talk to. Because I don't know anything like a lot of things, but I try, right? So for me, I read about what I know, and I ask people to talk. Right? Because sometimes it doesn't hurt. Like even when you write something, when you look over it again, you make mistakes, right? Typos and stuff, right? So this is basically my type of like this is what I want to fix, or this image to look. So it's all like just asking people, and that's the best thing as well about social media is that you can reach out to each other. Whatever you're doing, about whatever it is, go on Twitter, see this person is there, or whatever. Some people are busy, but you know. Which one? Yeah. He is. That was excellent. Want to bring out what, sir?
And both sides of the story, because for example, nowadays, is in favor compared to Palestine. He says that this is because these corporations control the media. And my question is, how do you break that vicious cycle during this game?
Yeah, so
most of the TV channels are owned by the same people. Right? So Rupert Murdoch, Australian billionaire, he owns Sky News, he owns World, he owns a lot of things, and now he owns the History Channel. And this guy's the most conservative, right-wing. Like, I don't want to swear, but like, you know, he's you know,
we're open-minded.
Go ahead. So he rules that media world, right? Or was. And there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things about the CIA funding to bring out what this is supposed to be a story, right? So, for example, a lot of people watch the film about the killing of Bin Laden, right? 0 hour 30. There was no official story about how Bin Laden was killed. They just said, oh, we found him, we killed him, we threw his body in the river. This is something that you tell your kid. Like, oh, where's my toy? Oh, I threw it. It's gone. Right? So the official story will become that film because there's no truth. Then the lie will become the truth. Right? And this is what these corporations are doing. They're making us believe something. They're making us believe, oh, this is a story. This is a story. This is how we have to get this. And I worked in the corporation. We worked in a huge culture situation. And they pay the art department will pay journalists to come and talk nice about it. And this is what happens in politics, right? So whoever lobbying is like the biggest in America. Lobbying is a complete form of corruption, right? So the IPAC, right, like the crazy lobbyist will say that this is what we want in the media. New York Times. What do Americans believe? Why? Because nobody cares what the rest of the world believes, because America is now the center, basically, of everything. So whoever can press pay to get the New York Times article page will be there. And now what Trump did was reverse that, right? Because the whole world knows that this is fake. And a lot of Americans have that, they know that, but they don't know how to get to other people. So he came out and said everything's fake. Washington Post, New York Times, it's all fake news, alternative facts, fake news. And he kept saying fake news, fake news, fake news, fake news. So now, even the small part of truthful journalists can't even talk because they lost their audience. People don't believe it, including us. I don't believe anything because it's just you don't know what's happening. Everything is paid for. Everything is run down to make us think about a certain something that this is the right way and this is wrong. And for example, the first movie Transformers. Right? The first scene is in Doha. It's set in Doha. I used to live in Doha. Right? We're watching it in this like 3D cinema. Qatar is like the richest country in the world per capita. Right? And the first scene of the film is they're zooming in into a desert. Right? And then there's the American base. And the American base has nice shoulders and they're buying water from these nice children who are on donkeys. And we're in Doha, we're watching this in Doha, and this is supposed to be Doha. So this, if you think about it, right, compare it to Vietnam, compare it to all these media films that you see about war and about all these things, this is what they make you see. This is what is Africa? Africa is a country, all the children are dying, everybody's corrupt, right? What is American? What is black? What is African American? Right? Drug dealer, pimp, basketball player, rapper. This is it. So now you have stereotypes of everybody, and you're scared if everybody's outside there. So it's all about building that image. And how do we solve that? Media, and every corporation actually, art, culture, and media. It's very feasible, but it's paid for by the people. Like the BBC, for example, that's what I example that was there for years. It's still a bit disrupted by politics, but it's there. There's a lot of really nice intercepts. If you want to read like proper views, intercept. What do you call it? There's another American media. So you have to follow these individual journalists and control their integrity. Now now it's all about person. Because now it's all about social. So it's all about person. You have to be the person to believe it. Other than that, you never know. Yeah, I agree.
Excuse me.